I have the distinct honor and pleasure today to introduce you guys and to talk to someone I've looked up to for a really long time. His name is Chris Ashworth. As part of our double feature today, part one of live stream today is with Chris Ashworth. Now, I want to jump into my deck here. When I was looking for pictures of Chris, and you notice like there's a fuzzy out of focus image here, like what is going on? For me, to find an image of Chris, it was like searching for Bigfoot. Lots of images came on the internet, but I could not find anything of him. And when you finally submitted a picture, it was like this thing that was kind of very mysterious. So he's a man of mystery. So I started thinking like this is in search of the legendary Chris Ashworth, also known as Swiss Grit. And then this image comes up, and this most definitely is not Chris, because this is an American actor who plays the Russian on HBO's The Wire. So we got to find some clues, you guys. We got to go on Instagram to find out who Chris is. And again, no pictures of Chris, just typography, beautiful design. But you guys should definitely go check him out right now, at Ashworth Chris. Check him out. Check out his work. I've noticed since I was following him, his following has grown pretty fast. Now he's up to 31,000 followers. So check out his work for daily inspiration, some really cool stuff. So I want to dive a little deeper. Even on Wikipedia, there's not a lot of information on Chris. This tells me something about him, but we'll get into that in a little bit later. So he went to the York College of Arts and Technology, and he started a design studio called Orange, designing highly reproducible nightclub flyers. We'll get into that. He's also the former art director of Ray Gun magazine. And here are some of the beautiful layouts. Check this out. And now you know why I look up to him. He's a typographer. So he also did magazines in conjunction with other designers. But here are some examples. Really beautiful stuff. Look at these layouts. Now, some of you young guns out there are looking at this like, oh, that's like, what texture pack is he using? What kind of filters? And we'll find out a little bit more about his process in a little bit. And he also designed this book with Michael Stipe, 2x intro. And then look at these layouts. Beautiful stuff. And we'll ask him a little bit later why he likes the term Swiss Grit. And I think that's a term he made up. And these are layouts from his Instagram account. And I just love seeing the very tactile things in there with the tape, the duct tape, and this lettering that's applied on top. You're looking at that, it's like, did he do that in Photoshop? He did not do it in Photoshop. And I can see a pattern here with fascination of distressed typography, layering materials, tape, paper, rub down lettering. And then I assume maybe this is found typography, part of his inspirational files. Maybe, maybe not. And then he'll do typesets like this. And then you go onto his website, and again, it's very hard to find information about Chris. So you guys are going to be in a treat because I don't know how many interviews he does, but we're going to try to get as much information from Chris in a little bit. So this is the website, and it's at c-ashworth.com. Beautiful minimalist layout. Somewhat difficult to navigate, I must admit. But beautiful stuff. So if you guys want to see like how designers work, pre-computer, post-computer, whatever, there's some amazing things on here. And currently, he's the creative director, Modern Life and Devices Creative Studio at Microsoft. And some other job titles he's had. The brand creative director at Nokia, creative director at Getty Images, owner, typo there, and founder of Still Media, art director of Ray Gun Publishing, which we talked about, owner of Substance, senior designer at MTV Europe, and designer at, is that EG? EG.G. Okay. Yeah. Chris, everybody help me welcome Chris to the show, guys. Yeah. There he is. Oh, I was thinking maybe you were in the witness protection plan.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why the reluctance?
I like looking at the work, right? I like people looking at the work. It's not about me.
So do you also have an opinion about people who show too much of themselves?
No, I don't have a problem with it. I guess I'm like, I grew up on New Order.
Yes.
Pete Saville, Man of Mystery, didn't put the band on the sleeve for I don't know how many years. So, Pink Floyd, all that stuff. So I'm like, I'm more interested in the creative than the person behind it. Although it is interesting, like some of my heroes, when I have had the chance to meet them or read about them, it's good putting a kind of face to the name, right?
Yes. So we will have to then screen capture you from this just to get an image of you. Okay, so fantastic. So I thought you were in the UK, but then as I was looking you up on LinkedIn, I realized now are you in Seattle, Washington?
I am, yeah.
And how long
Yes,
have you lived? And how long have you lived in the United States? And are you planning to stay here for a long time, or is this
I
just
am.
you are? Okay.
Yeah, I've got a pair of twins now, so they keep me busy. Yeah, I've been here on and off since 2000. I've lived in America 4 times. My wife, if we relocate one more time, it's just going to tip her over the edge.
She's done with you.
Stay.
Yeah. Okay. And do you like being in America? What are the cultural differences that you see in America and in UK or London or?
Whoa, that's a big question, man. I know some like practical differences. You don't have pubs here, which is a major problem.
Okay.
You know, fish and chips.
Yes.
Shepherd's pie, all that kind of stuff. Custard. I have to get it all imported. But yeah, cultural differences. I think, you know, I'll just hit one. So I think, you know, where I'm from, we're used to kind of speaking our mind a little bit, and I guess kind of saying how we think, and not really expecting anyone to sort of take offense by it, but just you know, say what's on your mind and have a good dialogue about it. I think some of the time I've found over here, you know, you have to kind of be a little bit more guarded with your kind of opinions and how you express yourself, I guess. But anyway,
you know, I was
that today.
I was recently at an event in Manchester, and they were talking about the American attitude versus the British attitude, and there's this sense of like, I don't know if it's cynicism, sarcasm, or self-deprecating, but there's just a little darkness to it. And I totally agree with you in terms of certain countries and cultures are very direct in how they feel and they think, while American and Canadians are a little bit more kind of careful with how they word things. And you can get in trouble if you say things too clearly and too directly, right?
Well, yeah, I have a Brit friend here at Microsoft in our studio, and we when we get at it, we're like the Gallagher brothers or something in a meeting, and everyone else is like, you can hear a pin drop. They're like, you know, they think we're never going to talk to each other again,
right?
And then half an hour later, we're having a coffee. So I don't know. We just, you know, you just kind of fight your corner, and if you believe in something, you got to be sort of passionate about it, right?
Now, earlier I was mentioning that you're a man that's kind of hard to find, and that tells me something usually. It usually tells me that you're so busy with work and professional life, you don't have time to update things. And I suspect that's true. Now you're the creative director there at Microsoft. How did you come about to work there, and what's it like? I mean, okay, let me just be careful about how I phrase this question. Like, what drew you to Microsoft, and why are you there?
So yeah, that's a kind of a hopefully an interesting story. So when I was at Getty Images, they had 2 offices. Okay, one in London, one in Fremont in Seattle, which was their headquarters. So I ran those 2 studios, creative studios, and I hired this guy out of what do you call it, like Pronto Print, like a copy design company. He just went out of college and he went into this place. So I hired him as a contractor in my studio, and he used to be he was an amazing designer and typographer, very kind of green, but he used to come in like 11 o'clock, and we'd have these meetings at 9:30, and this guy would be on the hook to be part of this meeting or share some files or something, and he just basically completely missed the meeting because he'd been out the night before. So eventually I had to have this chat with him. I'm like, sorry mate, you know, this is great, you're great, but it's not going to work out unless you can kind of get in here on time. So anyway, we parted company. Then I went back to the UK and changed my job. I ended up at Nokia. Did that for 2 years, and whilst I was doing that, I was always trying to get back to America. I wasn't really enjoying it back in London. So this guy who I just described, the one I had to let go, he sent me an email one day just out of the blue. He said, I don't know whether you're interested, but there's this creative director job going at Microsoft in Seattle. So he'd actually got a job at Microsoft in those subsequent couple of years, sorted himself out a bit, got a bit more organized, and yeah, he tipped me about this job, and the rest is kind of history. So and he's a great guy, he's a great designer. I've actually learned a lot from him. So yeah, kind of an interesting story of like come full circle, with someone that I kind of gave a break to in design way back.
That is really cool. So that tells me a lot about how you manage people, because somebody that you said, you know, basically you let him go, right? And
I had to, yeah.
And the way that you did it, the person that you were, when he moved on in his life and his career, he thought about you, and maybe you were that wake-up call that he needed in his life, so that then he could focus up, and then he gets his job, and then he recommends you for the job. That's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think he was a quick learner, and I think he got excited about typography and design through not just working with me, but there was one of my good friends, Mark Fraser. He kind of brought him along a lot. So yeah, I think it dawned on him that maybe he should give it a bit more of a go, I think, and maybe get his late nights in check a little bit, at least during the week.
Right. Okay, so one of the reasons why I had mentioned at the beginning of the show that I looked up to you before I even knew who you were was mostly through this magazine that was very influential for a lot of us designers, and it's Raygun. And I think when it popped onto the kind of scene, it was done by David Carson, who was like, just at that time, the monster of the design world. Everything you touched is like, David Carson's all over it. So here's my first question for you. Why were you brought in to art direct Raygun? And then I found out through Wikipedia, I think you designed 15 issues. So why only 15 issues?
All right. Okay. So the first one was why did I work on Raygun?
Why were you brought on to do Raygun after Carson?
Okay. Yeah, so let's just rewind a little bit. So yeah, when I was at college in 89, 90, just as I was kind of leaving college, you know, I started seeing Beach Culture magazine, all that stuff. Rudy Vanderland was doing Emigre, and then Carson started doing Raygun, and I had this like really rigorous couple of years being taught by a Swiss typographer, who was my lecturer at York College. And when I had the whole grid system, clear space, all that sort of stuff drilled into me. And then I started to get exposed to, you know, what Carson was doing, a lot of the West Coast American designers. And it just became a sort of, you know, where I am today with my work is somewhat of a fusion of those two things, in a way. So he was one of my heroes when I was starting out. And so when I did some of my own work in my own studios, for no money, but just, you know, the hell of doing creative work, I started to get a little bit of a name for myself. And Marvin Jarrett, who is the publisher of, you know, Raygun, Bikini Magazine, Her Magazine, Stick Magazine, all those cool kind of magazines from the 90s. He came to London. He wanted to establish a magazine in London, and he basically set up a partnership with MTV. So the two of them wanted to do a music magazine, and Marvin reached out to one of my great friends, Lewis Blackwell, who done a lot of books. He did the Carson End of Print book. He was the editor on that. He worked at Creative Review magazine. So basically, Lewis gave my name to Marvin, and then Marvin got in touch with me. And my friend Neil Fletcher, who we worked on our Substance design studio together, the two of us pitched design ideas, cover ideas, spread ideas for this soon-to-be music magazine coming out of the UK. We won the pitch. The magazine lasted, you know, 6 issues before it was sold to someone else when we quit. And at that time, I was already starting to do this Raygun culture book for Marvin. which was a hardback book that was published by Booth Clibborn in '96. So as I was doing that, Marvin then asked me if I wanted to come to LA and do Ray, take over from the art director who was there at the time. And so yeah, I mean, I couldn't pass up that chance. So so then to your other question, yeah, I did 15 issues, Jan '97 to June '98. And again, same kind of story. Marvin decided he wanted to sell the title to someone else, and it just felt like the right time to go back to England.
I see. So I think part of the story there is you moved out to Santa Monica, right? Because I think I read in your Instagram post from the Ray Gun days.
I actually lived on Bundy Drive, Wilshire and Bundy, yeah.
We know exactly where that is.
So yeah, I lived there, and then the office was on Santa Monica Boulevard, but the kind of the Santa Monica end of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is that where Ray Gun was being designed, or headquarters, or is that just where you set up office?
No, it was there for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was there when I got there.
Okay. So what did you do right after that? After they decided they're going to sell the title to somebody else, what was your next thing?
Moved back to London and set up my own studio again, which sounds very grand, but it was just me in an attic room on Denmark Street, which is a kind of slightly infamous street where they sell a lot of music equipment. I used to see all sorts of sort of famous musicians buying equipment on that street. They call it Tin Pan Alley, I think. I saw Liam and Noel buying some guitars there once. I did that for like a year, and then I'm like, you know, I want to do something else. I don't want to work for like just me and myself. I want to do something else. So Lewis, then I mentioned him earlier. He rang me, said I just got this gig at Getty Images, running their creative studios, doing all the kind of promo marketing. Do you fancy doing that? Like running a team of like 15 designers and writers, and I'm like, Lewis, you know, you're insane. I've never managed anyone in my life. So he took a punt on me, and I started doing that, and I never looked back. I kind of love what I did before for 10 years on my own kind of thing, or with one other person, but working with the people is just great. Yeah.
Okay, it's ironic that you're at Microsoft right now, and you are admitted, like, I don't love technology. I like designing things. So I saw this thing that you put out a couple days ago on Instagram, and the headline was, "Paper doesn't crash." So I would love for you to talk a little bit about your relationship or affection for
analog. It'll never let you down, man. It'll never let you down.
Right. So can you tell us a little bit about your process, how you work, and then maybe tie that into the whole idea of Swiss grit and what that means?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've always made things with my hands. I think the defining moment for me was, when I was at college, like I said, I had this huge background in just really rigorous kind of Swiss graphic design. And I took the train one day from Southport to Manchester, and I bumped into this exhibition. I didn't know it was going on. It was called Sublime at the Corner House, and it basically had a celebration of graphic designers who were from Manchester who worked in the record industry. There was Malcolm Garrett, Peter Saville, Mark Farrow, on 8VO, Johnson Panas. So I walked into this exhibition, and I walked into a room. It was just white, big room, high ceiling, white walls, wood floor, and in the middle was a glass case. And on the glass case was different layers of visual elements, type, hand-drawn type, done on tracing paper, stuck down on the glass with sellotape, a kind of some guitar images, some kind of bars that were drawn out with kind of felt tip pens, and basically all these different kind of graphic elements on different layers of glass. What I realized I was looking at was essentially the artwork for 8VO's The Guitar and Other Machines, sleeve, which is designed by 8VO, So that had I was like, well, you can actually, so it doesn't have to look perfect. And I was something about the tactile nature of it and the fact that it was all there before my eyes in terms of the artwork. And so ever since that moment, I've been really interested in like things that feel human and natural and kind of have some personality to them. You know, things done on a computer just look like everyone else's things done on a computer to me. So I'm kind of fascinated by you know, everywhere I go, everywhere I walk. I've got dogs. When I walk the dogs, I'm always finding bits to type and stuff, and it gives me inspiration for my work. So I guess it's what I see and what I feel is to me what I try and make and almost recreate sometimes. So the process that I go through when I'm working on something for a company in Wales right now, and I set the type. In this instance, I set it on screen, and then I just basically print out 100 copies of it and start. I put some in the washing machine last night. I just get, you know, tape, rip it up. We're going up to, we have a little place in the mountains. It's got 6 foot of snow. So tonight when I get there, I'm taping all these sheets of paper to the floor of my garage. So over the next 3 days, we're going to drive in and out over them, rip them up, get them covered in snow and dirt and grit and everything. Then I'll dry them out with a hairdryer and see what I've got. So yeah, it's just
wow, I love that.
Right, the fun of playing with it.
Okay, so for
a
lot of
what you're gonna get, right?
So for a lot of our young listeners who are tuning in, who are really pretty much just grew up using digital tools, this is going to sound very foreign to them. I love that you described that because I was like, I wonder how much Chris is involved in scratching and damaging the type, because I can tell it's analog in the way that you do it, and you're actually doing it the hardest way possible, but then you get this really richness to the work itself.
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing this thing last night, and you can't buy sellotape in America. That's another problem I've got with America. So I have to import it, rolls of sellotape. So I was doing some type last night, and because I do it so fast, I can't be bothered to use scissors, so I just cut it with my teeth. I've taken all the layer of skin off my lips, because it's really sticky, this stuff. So when you bite if it gets stuck to your lip, you just pull your lip to your skin.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought I wasn't going to be able to do the interview today. I'm like, I've got no skin on me.
So sellotape, is that like clear tape? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, it's like clear tape, but it's actually got this sort of cigarette-y, kind of yellowy, stainy feel to it. So if you put some of that down and leave it, it gets really good, because it just gets more yellow.
Yes. So that probably means that it has some kind of acid to it, that it's reacting to paper, and so over time the artwork keeps growing and changing and evolving. That's what you're looking for, right? Something that's organic and alive.
I mean, like 3M, I guess, have perfected it over time, so it's just always clear.
Right.
But I like the always yellow.
That means that probably, aside from ripping the skin off your lips a little bit, you're probably leaving some kind of chemical on your lips too.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so if I pass out during this,
yes. So I want to take a look back at some of your work on from my slide here from Instagram. Now that you guys understand the context, you'll have a greater appreciation for what's going on here. So I'm assuming that's a real piece of duct tape, and this is rub down lettering, like Letraset stuff, right?
Yeah, totally.
And now you can see like where this is coming from. So damaged pieces of paper. So Chris is saying he'll print out 100 copies after he's typeset it. He'll cut it apart. Now some of this doesn't have the tape. So is this glue stick now?
Yeah, I just use like good old fashioned Pritt stick.
It's beautiful stuff. And
I spray mount a lot, but that stuff's like, it's not good for anything.
It gets everywhere and doesn't stay on. Yeah.
I've ruined a few carpets with that stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe this is a time, I'm not sure, people who are tuning in live, you guys want to get your questions in on YouTube? go ahead and drop in the questions. Is it Jonah that's going to be monitoring comments today? Jonah, is that you?
It sure is, Mr.
Okay.
Doe.
Is there any good questions yet, or do I just keep talking to Chris?
Yep. I'm going to put out a post saying, give us some questions.
Oh, okay. So we're still waiting for some people to comment? All right. I see lots of things. Usually it takes them a while to warm up, some admiration for the work. Now, I know that in the current pantheon of design, or part of the design zeitgeist right now, is like clean, modern, very simple. So this is going to be a shock to your system this morning, you guys. But this is the stuff that when I came of age in terms of being a graphic designer, this is stuff I saw and loved. Now, I didn't go to the extent of like washing my typography. It's kind of interesting. You wash it to get it dirty, so it erodes things, right? So and you're driving over things with your car, and you're always thinking about how can I actually expose it to elements in a way that I see in the real world? Because that's really what's happening. It's not a filter. It's not a displacement map. It's not chemicals. It's just letting it do its thing over time.
Yeah, it's another good one. I stuck some type to the bottom of my kids' shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So they went to school and jumped around and all the rest of it, and so it's really nice when it came back.
Wow. Did they know that it was on the bottom of their shoe?
No, because they would have pulled it off. I did it when they were in bed.
Right. Genius. Okay, so I have another question here. We have a mutual friend in common, Robert Howes, and many years ago I worked with him on several music videos. I believe, if I remember correctly, there was some overlap between you and Robert, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was literally like he did, I think, issue, let me get this right. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I think he did 42 and then I did 43. Yeah.
Did he do 42 and then you did 43 and then he was gone, or you guys went back and forth, or how did that work?
Oh yeah, he went to Mars. He went to Mars Media.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did some Nine Inch Nails stuff straight away, so he didn't do too badly.
You guys get to work on some really cool projects. I'm very jealous. Okay, so here's another question for you. In terms of like somebody who's getting out, okay, let me rephrase this. I look at you and you have a very interesting career, and you're hanging around with all these legendary designers. Now the climate and the atmosphere is quite different. We're not concentrated in certain areas, or if you live in the middle of nowhere, how does somebody that's kind of relatively new to the design field, who aspires to kind of have the career that you've had, do you have any advice on how they can get started or what they can do?
Yeah, I mean, I literally had, I mean, not that I have anything now, but I had nothing when I started.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, we didn't obviously didn't have the internet or social media. So all I used to do was do what I felt was right and do what I was passionate about, do things that actually I wanted to do. Like my dad wanted me to get this job in this advertising agency when I left college. They offered me I did a work placement, and they offered me a job. And it would have been, it would have been so easy to go and do it. But I would have been bored to tears. They were designing beer cans. Mm-hmm. So I did this thing. I started with my two mates from college, and we literally made no money for 3 years. But we did what we wanted to do. And we used to send our work into magazines. That was the only way you could get exposure, because like I said, there wasn't the internet. And so just through doing that and being passionate about it and believing in it. I know it sounds corny, but it's true. You believe in it. It's like when you're in a band. You start with nothing. If you've got some ideas and some belief, then you can go a long way. So I get a lot of people on Instagram that ask me similar things, and I just try and encourage them to kind of pursue what excites them and what they're passionate about,
mm-hmm.
even on the sidelines. It's a hard one to answer that.
Well, now that you bring up Instagram and people asking you questions on Instagram, because I get asked the same questions over and over again, let's clear the air so that you don't have to answer it ever again. What are some of the most repetitive questions that you get on Instagram, so that you can just say it here and you can just say, just go watch this video so I don't have to say it again?
Oh, no, I don't. Yeah.
No?
I don't have a problem with that, because I actually, I'm not a huge fan of social media. It's the irony. Like, I've never been on Facebook or anything, but Instagram to me is, again, it's going to probably sound corny, but it's helped me get in touch with so many people that I've lost touch with since I've kind of been doing more of this kind of corporate stuff, and it's got me back into the thing that I'm most passionate about in terms of my career, just personal kind of typography and self-expression. So it's given me a platform, I think. And when I get these comments and questions from people, I just try and give a little back and try and give some of them some pointers or them some encouragement. Or so for me, it's been nothing but a good thing, really.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
fantastic. Well, I'm going to ask you one of those questions that you may get all the time. So here we go. This is coming from Abhishek Bahara, and he's like, what is the trick to overlap type without overdoing it?
Overlap type.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I mean, I just use a lot of tape, and the more you pull up, the more you pull off. You know, if you print something out multiple times and pull it up multiple times, and then basically put the tape each time over the top of one another, then the amount of pieces you put down obviously affects the legibility and the kind of density of it. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of a simple way of doing it, I guess.
I think the question he's asking is, when designers are starting out, they're a little nervous about where to put stuff, and so even the idea of overlapping and layering the way that you do things, they're not sure, like, how do I not overwork it? Not necessarily from a technical point of view, but when you know that it's too layered and you've lost it's gone off the deep end. Maybe that was his question.
I mean, I guess for me, it's one of these interesting areas where we're talking about a technique, and I think, to me, it has to be in relation to an idea. So, if the idea or the thing you're trying to convey is something that is, you know, is hard to describe, or is quite dark, or if the subject matter is of that kind of nature, then, you know, you take it to the point that it's like as close to utter illegibility maybe as possible. Whereas if you're trying to create something that's a different sentiment and has a different kind of message to it, then you would do it more cleanly, right? I think that's the thing for me. It's all well and good, you know, creating techniques, but like I say, like I'd like to think a lot of what I do is in relation to, like, I'm trying to communicate a certain sort of tone or an idea, and that's, you know, that's born out of the words that I'm kind of messing with. Yeah.
Since you're making essentially pieces of artwork in the process of design, where it's kind of crossing over between design and art, how are you archiving all this stuff? Because if it's a digital file, it sits on a drive in the cloud. Do you have flat files full of pages and layouts?
You should. We should have my wife on at this point. So I have a room, and it is literally full of cardboard boxes. So we've moved house, I think, 17 times since we've been married.
Oh my goodness!
And every time I take these boxes, and she's like, "You haven't opened those since the last time we moved." And I'm like, "So I've been carting them around for I don't know, 25 years or something." So that's why, like I'm saying, this Instagram thing has allowed me to kind of crack open some of the boxes and look back through my work, and it's kind of inspired me to do new stuff. But yeah, I have boxes and boxes of paper. Yeah, I'm a bit of a hoarder, so yeah.
Well, I've noticed that on Instagram, you seem to have a pretty consistent lighting and camera setup. Is that something that you set up in the studio where you pull out a piece of artwork, you photograph it, and then post it onto Instagram?
Yeah, so that, mate, is not... So what that is a stool with a board and a white sheet of paper stuck to it.
Yes.
And then every weekend, I'll choose a few things I want to share that week.
Yeah.
And then I basically just keep going into this room whenever I've got a moment. I do a photo where I try and catch the light at the right time of day, but it's either too blue, too yellow.
Right.
I literally, like I say, I'm a technophobe, so all I know is to like put the thing in front of the window and click. So it has a certain consistency to it, I guess, but I'd like to try and make it a little bit easier to capture.
Well, you sure fooled me. I thought you had this really great like studio setup. I'm like, this is how a professional does it, right? It's all set up on a copy stand and lights, and it's consistent. So when you say click, are you shooting on film? Are you shooting on your iPhone? Are you shooting on a digital camera?
Just an iPhone, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
I hold it really still. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this is another, I guess, proving the point here in that it's really not the tools, it's really what you know, right? So you're sitting there, you kind of know, I want to create the certain soft shadows and the color temperature. You're aware of all these things. That's fantastic. I love that. And I just want to say this, not that you would ever do this, but if you ever want to get rid of some boxes, I know where to send them to. All right, just let you know. So I'm doing it as a public service announcement to you and your wife. I want to keep the marriage together. So if you never need to get rid of some boxes, send them our way. Now, I'll tell you, I have boxes of Ray Gun magazine, some from Carson, some from you, and I still have them around here somewhere. But I started to question myself, like, what am I doing with this? If I don't display this somewhere, it's just in a box and it's not being loved and appreciated. Is it giving me joy? Well, I don't know. I'm a hoarder too, so I'm like, oh. Then what I did was, because I have so many boxes, I got rid of the innards and I just kept the cover. So it's like, okay, it's a little bit more reasonable now. But
wow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can speak to you anymore now.
Pretend I didn't say that. Pretend I didn't say that. Yes, okay. As you move, you start to feel the weight of your collection, but I'm glad that you're not throwing them away because they need to be in a gallery somewhere where we can appreciate it, or at least scanned in on the internet so we can, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find.
Couple of things on that. So I am, my dream is like a book in 2020 because it'd be 30 years of me messing around with type. So I'm kind of got that in the works. If I can pull that off, then I would definitely like to do some kind of like some openings with some of this actual work on display. Just back to the start, you showed my website, so that's a bit of a running joke because I'm determined to put this book out before my website actually goes live. So that thing that you were looking at is just like it's not even a beta. It's just us trying to see what things look like. So it's not actually supposed to be live yet.
Oh.
And it's
Aaron, cut to this. Yeah.
To get it live. So I'm basically on this, like the analog is going to beat the digital. Yeah, that thing. That's not like... You were saying like it's hard to navigate, and like that's because it doesn't work.
You're like a dummy because it's not supposed to be out there yet. Thanks. I was thinking, you know what I was thinking? I thought this was an art statement in itself. It was a giant middle finger because almost everything I clicked on didn't work and broken links. And one time I think I clicked on something and I saw the directory. I'm like, am I supposed to see this? It's there. Okay. But I encourage you, I'll be the first person to fund the Kickstarter project where you're going to publish the book because I'm an old school guy. I want it in my hands. I want to see it high res in its full printed glory. I think, I know 8VO did the same. I bought the book. It's gorgeous. And I got to see all the behind the scenes stuff, the layering. And this is another point of intersection between you and I in that you saw that design. Yeah. And Simon Johnson was one of the principals at 8VO, and he's my type professor from Art Center. So we have that kind of shared DNA.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him in LA.
You did?
Yeah, great guy. So yeah, one of the founders of 8VO, legend, living legend.
Yes. And I've been trying to get my former professor to come on the show. I actually interned for him too, but he's like,
oh yeah?
I'm camera shy. I'm not going to come on the show. I'm like, oh shoot. But I'm glad you did.
I was fortunate to work with Mark Holt at Nokia. He was like a contractor there, helping with some creative and design when I turned up. So I have this photo of him cutting this piece of paper with a scalpel. And it's like one of my all-time best photos, like having him in a design moment.
Yes, love it.
That's-
Now, I know you said before that you don't really, you want it to be about the work, but I think the world would appreciate a little bit more of you in the work so that we can see you and just kind of know the man behind the machine, if you will. So I want to encourage you to do that, but I understand you got to do what you got to do. Is there another question, Jonah? Because we don't have that much more time with Chris because he's a busy man. He's got to go to a meeting.
Yes, there is.
Yes.
So
Okay, what's a good
Devon
question?
Sanders asks, is there such a thing as making a mistake in your type and creative work? It looks deliberate yet random.
Ooh.
Yeah, totally. Mistakes are the best things. Oh my, some of my favorite work that I've done is literally there's a mistake in there. Let me see if I can find an example. So, yeah, I mean, well, I know it's a mistake, but like I do all these things. I used to do a lot of stuff that was like much more by chance. So leave it where it landed, I think was kind of this thing that we used to do where you would, on the covers of Raygun, as an example, we would, now you kind of have multiple windows open with different kind of, you've got your type on one and maybe you've got your image and your masthead on one. You're trying to set the type on one and you've got your bar. So we would compose the cover with all the elements, and then the last thing you'd put on invariably would be the barcode. So you would you just basically copy paste it in, and we had this sort of joke thing where you just leave it where it landed. So on the Jane's Addiction cover, it landed on the drummer's head. So I just left it, and then after the mag came out, we Marvin walked into my design room one day and he's like, "We got a problem, mate. I just got a phone call from the the manager of Jane's Addiction, and the drummer is pissed. So he's seen the cover on the newsstand, and like, so we had to make him this massive poster of the cover without obviously the barcode, and frame it nicely, and get it sent over to his house as a sort of as an apology. But so yeah, it kind of backfired a bit, that one. But I always remember this quote from M.L. Ruder: fortuitous and unexpected results are foreign from the nature of typography. I think it's similar. And he was like one of my heroes when I was growing up at college. And I kind of it was always funny. Like, I liked so much of what he talked about, but then that quote stuck in my mind as something that actually I kind of rallied against a little bit, because it was always the unexpected stuff that it catches your eye.
So if I'm interpreting that quote, does that quote mean that in the design and deliberate practice of typography that there's not that much chance for randomness, and then you introduce randomness back into it?
It's all got to be thoughtfully created and crafted, and there's
like what point
left.
size, what how should I justify it, what typeface, and what's the weight, and all these things. And so, okay, so everybody needs to understand this. So what Chris was talking about before was introducing deliberately randomness to the design. So a lot of it's controlled, and I think that's where it gets structure from. And then copying and pasting, and wherever it lands on the screen, boom, we're just going to go with it. We like it, we don't like it, we don't care, we're moving on. And the one time it came back to bite you in the butt was Jane's Addiction, but that's fine, right? Nobody was physically hurt. Yeah,
but we would create like on like feature layouts and magazine stuff. We would put boxes on the layouts that didn't have anything in them. You couldn't see them, but they were there. And when you dropped in elements over the top, they would rag the elements in different ways, so they would kind of just knock them out of shape or knock them out of line. And it's all that kind of stuff that I think we always found kind of just fascinating.
I have another question for you. To me, the 90s was this decade of exploration in typography. People were just doing so many crazy cool things. Now that we're 20 plus years removed from it, do you think some of that spirit is gone? And how do you feel about it?
Oh man. Yeah, I think about that a lot. I never sort of come to any conclusion. It's. I remember when I was starting out, you could count the amount of designers you knew on basically two hands. In terms of not, I mean personally, no, I mean know their work, who were practicing, and now like I know everyone's a designer, but that's not a bad thing. I don't know. There just doesn't seem to be a movement right now, right? There
Right.
hasn't been for a while. I don't know whether everything's been tried and there's nothing. I'd like to think there was plenty of things out there that haven't been kind of unearthed yet, right? Like I made this point this morning on my post. I think about lecture sets started off in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s as basically a cheap communication tool. That's literally what it was because there weren't any computers. You could make your own sign and get your message out there. And I think handcrafted things have kind of come full circle, right? People are valuing those things much more, and just in terms of product design as well, and things that are made by people, personal, not robots, all that kind of stuff. So I think for me, there's a movement in that kind of crafted space that's happening. It will be lovely to see more of that, I think, in our world, in our graphic design world, to me. I would like to see a lot more of that, because I think that's what draws you in, right? It's so if there's a feeling behind the work, it's like how you connect with people, right? There's that kind of tactility and that kind of personality to it, that I think in a way is quite disruptive now, because we're also used to seeing things that are so perfect and computer generated.
Yeah, I think people are yearning for that hand-done stuff now, and I can see that the pendulum is swinging back to where's the human in the work.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
You mentioned Letraset. Are they still manufacturing Letraset sheets, or do you have the world's largest collection?
No and yes.
Okay.
So they're not. I did a bit of I did a bit of research last night. I think Winsor and Newton, who they make paintbrushes and stuff, they bought them. So they own that company now, but I don't think they're putting out. I'm pretty sure they're not putting out any Letraset. But yeah, I went to this art supply shop in just down from Microsoft before Christmas. So I went in there. Someone told me about it. I went in there, and it was like a business-to-business store. So I went in. There was no one in there apart from a dog who was sat in reception. So I went in. I'm looking around, and it's like there's dust on everything and blah blah blah. And then this lady came out. She's like, can I help you? So I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I noticed you had this Letraset pad, like a plain paper. You don't happen to have any Letraset sheets, do you? And she goes, funny you should mention that, like, come down here. So we went down this corridor into this storage room, and she had she had 20,000 sheets.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
The mother load.
They were literally, they couldn't be bothered to throw them out in the skip. So they were just in this storage room gathering dust. I'm just totally speechless, right? So I'm like, how much do you want for them? Because I knew she was going to throw them out. So she came back, she asked the boss, and he's like, $500. So I rang my wife, and that was my Christmas present. So 20,000 sheets. I still can't believe it.
Wow.
So they're in my room full of cardboard boxes.
This is fantastic, because what you're doing and the tools that you're using is very ephemeral. It's going to be all gone. And now you must these are my children right now. I need to package them up very carefully, because they do dry out, right? And they don't work as well.
Of Auric Goldfinger with the gold thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm like stockpiling Letraset.
This is fantastic. Chris, I know you have to run. I want to ask you one more question, and if it's too long to answer, just give me the shortest version of this. How does all this experimentation and analog work and distress type inform the work that you do today?
At Microsoft?
Well, yes.
it doesn't directly inform it because we're doing a different kind of work, I think. But what I would say is it fuels me. So when I've put the twins to bed and I get my work, my type out and start making things, it kind of lights me up. It kind of gives me this kind of it's like kryptonite. So when I then come into work, I'm kind of fired up about what I've been doing, and I want to put that passion into what I'm doing at Microsoft. So it's kind of like one thing affects the other thing. Yeah. Yeah. You know what it's like, man. You're creative, right?
Yes.
When you're being creative, it affects your mind and your spirit. And so I think whatever then you're doing next gets the positive effect of that, I think. Yeah.
100%. Because I guess I was thinking, like, when Microsoft brought you on the team, they look at the vast volume of work you've done, and I just wonder, like, what are they thinking?
The irony is, though, mate, honestly, sorry to cut you off, but the irony is no one really knows, apart from about 10 people in my studio. They haven't got a clue what we're talking about now.
Really?
Not that they should, but like it's just they just don't have a clue. So
is that a reflection of where culture is going today? Like, we've lost sense of history and what's come before, and we're just in the now.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's to do with the fact that I don't put my name and face to everything.
That could be it too. Could be that you
probably think I'm that guy from the actor Chris from the Terminator. They probably think it's him. He's like an actor and he's a typographer, which is fine by me.
And you kill type. I mean, no, I'm just all right. Chris, I know you have to run, so I want to thank you for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your process and your knowledge, guys. Definitely check out Chris. Here's his information, even though the site is pre-beta or whatever. It's just not even ready for prime time. But if you want to
I wouldn't go to the site because it's not.
Okay, don't go to the site. Go to the Instagram account.
Instagram's got a lot of what's going to be there anyway. So.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful, inspirational thing. I look at it every day, and you can see me liking his posts almost every single time. So it's
I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Yes, it's at Ashworth Chris. Check it out. Learn from your elders. Learn from the masters, you guys. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this episode. Heartfelt thank you to all our sustaining members and the donuts. You guys know who you are. It's time for us to get out of here. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you. Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Cheers. Yeah.
Where's that screen, Aaron?
Let's get that now.